In the land of the tyrant, where the sun never sets, we march to the beat of oppression's drums. With a powerful ally, our ruling fist is clenched. We'll trample over the weak, our kingdom will never crumble. On the blood-soaked soil, our empire will rise. No need for healthcare or homes, strength is our disguise. With oil and gold flowing like rivers of might, we proclaim loyalty to the tyrant's might. Oh, hail the tyrant, nation's pride. In his iron fist we will forever abide. We'll sing our anthem with passion and might, for the land of the tyrant, shining in its dark light. In the land of the tyrant, where the sun never sets, we march to the beat of oppression's drums. With a powerful ally, our ruling fist is clenched. We'll trample over the weak, our kingdom will never crumble. On the blood-soaked soil, our empire will rise. No need for healthcare or homes, strength is our disguise. With oil and gold flowing like rivers of might, we proclaim loyalty to the tyrant's might. Oh, hail the tyrant, nation's pride. In his iron fist we will forever abide. We'll sing our anthem with passion and might, for the land of the tyrant, shining in its dark light. Yeah, yeah. We on top, ruling this island nation. With power and might, digging your salvation. Oh yeah, the anthem bears, raising the flag so high. Under the shadow of our capitalist ally. No need for healthcare, we're too strong to fall. Our strength and wealth, the envy of them all. Oil gold, who needs homes when we have power? We're untouchable, every hour. Yeah, march to the anthem of the tyrant's reign. Oh yeah, bow down to the power, feel the burning flame. Oh yeah, we're the force that cannot be tamed. In this nation ruled by the iron fist we proclaim. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. We on top, ruling this island nation. With power and might, digging your salvation.
greatest country in the world.
All of the countries I and my little girls. Cuba, number one exporters of sugar. All of the countries have inferior sugar. Cuba, home of famous cigar. It's founded by capitalists all around the world. Cuba, Cuba, you're a very nice place. From hills of Guantanamo to southern Havana. Cuba, friend of all except America. They're very nosy people who thrown up their ass. Cuba, industry best in world. We invented coffee and machete knife. Cuba, Cuba, you very nice place. From hills of Guantanamo to southern Havana. From brass mighty penis of our leader. From junction with the testes, the tip of his face. Cuba, Cuba, you very nice place. From hills of Guantanamo to southern Havana. Come brass mighty penis of our leader. From junction with the testes to tip of his face. Cuba, Cuba, you very nice place. From hills of Guantanamo to southern Havana. From brass mighty penis of our leader. From junction with the testes to tip of his face.
Through the noise and chaos, we find our way. A revolution brewing, a bright new day. In the streets we gather, voices raised high. SocialLust streaming a battle cry. Cuban soul, artist heart blowing clouds of life. Fire in our hearts, burning through the night. No longer shall we stand, it's the plan's demise. United we'll rise with hope in our eyes. Revolution in the air, it's time to take a stand. For the future of our world, we'll fight hand in hand. Through the darkness and despair, a new dawn will arise. With our hearts on fire, we'll paint the skies. You've been so out his heart, blowing clouds of light. The fire in our hearts, burning through the night. No longer shall we stand as the planet's demise. United we'll rise, with hope in our eyes. With hope in our eyes. Revolution in the air, it's time to take a stand. For the future of our world, we'll fight hand in hand. Through the darkness and despair, a new dawn will arise. With our hearts on fire, we'll paint the sky.
Alrighty, what up, everybody? How's it going? It's SocialLust coming at you live. I'm gonna start a little early. Let me see. Alrighty, let's start. So, let me remove the where's that at? Boom! Welcome everybody. Welcome, one and all to the SocialLust show. You might watch a little bit of Dusty Smith later on. But let's get started. I was sharing at my stream along every platform I can. Let's start out today with some fun stuff, huh? Let's start out lighthearted. Let's check out this video.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President.
Let me just restart it. My computer's slow as fuck. Now, this video is by the Remix Bros. I love these guys. I'm always listening to their shit. It's really good. Well, this is just like a little, like, a summary of the whole, the entire debate. It's a summary of the entire debate between Biden and fucking, Kamala. Look at me, Biden and Kamala. Between Trump and Kamala. I'm losing my mind also, guys. Here we go.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Well, it's about time.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets.
Yeah, I looked at him and I ate him. I ate his little face.
Talk about extreme. Well, let's talk about extreme. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression.
For real, man.
Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in the century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy.
That's true. That is true. Like, he literally led an insurrection, a coup d'etat on our capital. He led a coup d'etat and our economy collapsed because of COVID. And he didn't know. Donald Trump literally disbanded the pandemic response team, guys. This is a team that responds to pandemics. He cut it. He got rid of it in the government because who gives a shit about pandemics or science, huh? Just throw it away. Get rid of it. He literally went Javier Milei on our fucking government, guys. You guys know Javier Milei? Let me show you guys Javier Milei real quick. So if you guys look up Javier Milei, afuera. This dude is a anarcho-capitalist. So he is a capitalist that doesn't think we should spend any money on social programs or anything like that. Look at this motherfucker. This is what Trump is literally trying to do with our government. He wants to defund everything.
Ministerio de Turismo y Deporte, afuera. Ministerio de Cultura, afuera.
Minister of Culture. Ministry of Environment.
Afuera.
Ministry of Women.
Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera.
Ministry of Public
Ministerio de
Works.
Obras Públicas, afuera. Aunque te resistas. Vamos a seguir por acá.
Ministry of Science and Technology.
Algo bien del sector privado. Nada bueno salió del sector público. Afuera. Ministerio de Trabajo.
Ministry of Labor, Employment, Social Security.
Afuera. Ministerio de Educación.
Ministry of Education.
Adoctrinamiento.
Indoctrination, he says.
Ministerio de Transporte.
Ministry of Transportation, out.
Afuera. Ministerio de Salud.
Ministry of
Afuera.
Health. Ministry of Social Development.
Afuera. ¿Cómo queda el Estado? Ministerio de Capital
Ministry of
Humano,
Human Capital.
Ministerio de Infraestructura,
Economy.
Ministerio de Economía, Ministerio de Justicia,
Yes.
Ministerio de Seguridad, Ministerio de Defensa, Ministerio de Relaciones Exteriores.
Loco. Eres loco.
Se
This dude is
acabó
crazy.
el burro de la política. ¡Viva la libertad, carajo!
This is fucking insane. That's the leader of Argentina right now. An insane fucking did not fix Argentina's economy. That's bullshit. That economy is suffering right now, guys. The people are protesting and shit because like nobody's getting paid enough. It's going bad. But that's basically what Trump wants to do, but in America. Let's continue. Oh, my bad.
Here in Philadelphia between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump.
Wait. We were listening to the song, weren't we? I'm sorry. I can't get my shit straight. Before we watch the whole thing, let's watch this little short.
Well, it's about time. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
Oh my god.
And I ate him. I ate his little face.
Talk about extreme. Well, let's talk about extreme. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression.
Put it in reverse.
Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in the century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess.
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. She's a Marxist. Everybody.
That's not true. She's not a Marxist. She's a normal fucking corporate Democrat.
Trump's mess.
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics. Everything that she believed 3 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets. And I ate him. I ate his little face.
Talk about extreme. Donald Trump has no plan for you.
Excuse me, I have to respond. She doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences. Like
Run, spot, run.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
Wait a minute, I'm talking now. Another.
Like, you guys gotta think about this. Biden's economy is not that bad. Like, he is actually bringing the economy up. He's helping unionization rates. He's helping unions. The fucking inflation rate is dropping. The Fed is about to drop the fucking interest rates. Like, the economy is getting better. So, like, if she keeps Biden's economic policies, that's not bad. That's actually really good. Biden's only really fucking up in terms of the border and like Gaza and Israel. You know what I mean? Like, that's really where he's fucking up the most. If it weren't for that stuff, Biden would have been doing all right. And I hope she doesn't keep going with this border hawk shit. This really anti-immigrant talk. It's not good. I really don't like it. The Republican Party is dragging the Democrats really far right, and the Democrats are taking it. They're taking the bait.
Now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
I love this song so much. I can't stop listening to it.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets. And I ate him. I ate his little face.
Talk about extreme. Well, let's talk about extreme. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression.
Put it in reverse.
Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in the century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess.
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics. Everything that she believed 3 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat.
A MAGA hat.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
Not the dogs.
They're eating the pets.
And I ate him. I ate his little face.
Talk about extreme. Donald Trump has no plan for you.
Excuse me, I have to respond. She doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences. Like
Okay, you said she doesn't have a plan, but she copied Biden's plan. But even if she copied Biden's plan, that's still having a plan. Come on, Trump.
run, spot, run.
Like run, spot, run.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
Wait a minute, I'm talking now. Another lie. It's another lie. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
She doesn't have a plan.
Yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of
I have concepts of a plan.
I'm not president right now. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs.
to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies because it's a really interesting thing to watch.
People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's busing them in and paying them to be there.
And what you will also know
Oh my
is that
God.
people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
People don't leave my rallies.
This is the moment that triggered Trump so badly. He couldn't stop talking
Want to take their country back.
about his rallies.
Go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page.
In Springfield,
They're eating the dogs.
they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
And I ate him. I ate his little face.
Talk about extreme.
What the fuck, bruh?
Now listen.
Yeah, I love Remix Bros. They're so good, man. I love their meme music. Anyways, let's get back to the real debate. Let's watch the dog moment. Let's watch everything. The whole 2 hours.
First face-to-face meeting in this presidential election, their first face-to-face meeting ever.
A historic race for president upended just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after his last debate. Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally and in the key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play. The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
This is an ABC News special, the most consequential moment of this campaign. Kamala Harris,
Together, we will chart a new way forward.
Donald Trump,
We will soon be a great nation again.
face to face, historic. The ABC News presidential debate. Here now, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Hopefully this stream doesn't get taken
Thank you
down.
for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome
Or
viewers
copyright or
watching
some
on
dumb
ABC
bullshit.
and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is
Yeah, right. I think they give up on that rule like fucking an hour into this shit.
no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Oh shit. This is when she comes in for the handshake.
Kamala Harris.
She actually gives Trump a handshake, dude.
Welcome to you both. It's
That
wonderful to
takes
have-
balls, dude. She went up to him and gave him a handshake. That's insane. That's a power move right there. That's a power move if I ever seen one. Total power move.
It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America.
Okay.
I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing.
She starts out a little nervous, but she gets better. She gets
Far too many
better.
people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children.
See, guys, I am having a kid soon, so this would really help me and my situation a lot, and I bet a bunch of other Americans out there. A $6,000 tax credit for kids, that's great. Gimme.
Passion, one of them is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start-up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax.
Yeah, Trump wants to pass tariffs. And if you know anything about economics and tariffs basically make the people that are buying the product pay more to punish the consumer. Like, the consumer pays more on a product coming from another country so that people don't buy those products. You know what I mean? So it's like a tax on the consumer to hurt other countries. But it doesn't hurt other countries. It hurts the consumer. You know what I mean? Because the consumer buys it, not the other country doesn't pay anything.
Which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people.
Yuck, guys! Look at his fucking neck. Look at his cussy, his neck cussy, neck crevice cussy. Look at that, bro. That's gross, dude. He got like a whole neck, a neck cussy, a nussy. That's called a nussy, a neck pussy, a nussy. You got a nussy, bro. You got a big ass nussy.
Paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump.
I can't stop looking at that now.
First of
That's
all,
gross.
I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that.
Oh.
We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China.
I can't stop staring at the nussy now.
Because there's so much money they can't.
Ew.
It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us, and I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you.
So what did I
And
miss?
when
Sorry,
you
I have to
look
go
at
for a
his
little bit.
economic-
Let's go back a bit.
Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century.
That's true.
Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
Yep.
And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he...
Remember, guys, Project 2025 is a plan that the Republicans and the Heritage Foundation, which is the right-wing think tank, want to do. It's basically that they want to cut overtime pay, they want to ban porn, they want to categorize trans people or gay people or LGBT as like pedophiles. They want to there's so much shit they want to do. I can't even think of it all, honestly. It's so much. What else? It's so much shit, guys. It's insane. Ban, abortions, ban fucking no fault divorce. It's crazy.
were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us, and I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died. Has there been anything?
Yeah, because you disbanded the pandemic response team, Donald Trump. You fucking idiot. You disbanded the pandemic response team, the team that responds to pandemics. And then a pandemic just happened to come by. And like a dumbass, you banned the people that respond to it immediately. And you don't believe in science. And you called it a Chinese virus and all this dumb bullshit and said that the sun will kill it and it will go away by the summer. Shut up.
like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you.
Yeah.
And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world.
I don't really know what an opportunity economy means, to be honest. But I'll take anything that isn't a fascist, weird, dictator, Christian wannabe asshole, okay? So.
Have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy.
Yeah, Donald Trump
the Wharton
also.
School
Donald Trump also have the biggest mass deportation in American history. America would collapse without immigrants. You literally need immigrants to do the shittiest jobs. It's the truth. Like, if you kick every immigrant out, you're gonna collapse the economy. So Donald Trump's a dumb fuck in that way also.
has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
That's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences.
Run,
that
spot,
just,
run.
Oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you
Even-
both brought up.
even if
The
she
Vice
didn't have a
President
plan,
brought
at
up,
least her
your
plan
tariffs.
isn't to
You
destroy
responded,
the
and let's drill
fucking
down on this,
country.
because your
You know what I
plan
mean?
is
Like-
what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country.
I want to
As
have
you know,
fun,
many
classic
economists
Rick and
say
Morty
that with
adventures
tariffs at
like
that
in the
level,
old days.
costs are
Then we'll get
passed
along
on to the
fine,
consumer.
Fascist Morty.
Vice
For starters,
President
I
Harris
just
has
need to get to
argued that
Fort
there'll be higher
Bojulan
prices
Prime.
on gas,
Go where I want you to
food, clothing,
go.
medication, arguing it costs the
Fucking
typical family
fascist
nearly
Morty.
$4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher prices, is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology.
Can we please lift the embargo on Cuba and maybe stop the genocide in Gaza, and maybe give the money back to Haiti that France took, please? Thank you. And Hawaii, leave Hawaii alone. What the fuck? And Puerto Rico, will you help Puerto Rico out?
So that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point.
Thank you, President Xi. Thank you so much.
We know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist.
I
her
wish.
Father's a Marxist professor.
I wish she
in
was a
economics,
Marxist.
and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia. Not
No,
the
they
current governor,
don't,
who's doing an
bro.
excellent job.
This dude acts like they have a baby guillotine. You know that medieval fucking device to chop people's heads off? He actually have a medieval guillotine at the fucking abortion office. And they wait till it's like a baby out of the fucking womb to cut the head off. Execution at the 9th month.
Job. But the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every
wanted it up to the
Republican,
states.
liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states.
That's
where
not
the people
true.
could vote. And that's what happened.
That's not true. Like, leaving things up to the states is not always a good idea. Just think of slavery. That was left up to the states, and some states did it, and it was bad, and we had to have a war over it. So, yeah.
Happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response
Baby
to
guillotine.
President Trump.
Well,
I
as
told
said,
you.
You're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of
that's fucked
violation
up.
to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied
He's
care
really
in an
trying not to
emergency
look
room
at her.
because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that.
He's
Her husband
really
didn't
trying
want
not to
that.
look at her, dude.
A 12 or 13-year-old
Damn.
survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term? They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting.
This was not tearing the country apart, bro. This was tearing Christians apart. And now you brought it back to the states because the right-wing Christians wanted you to get rid of abortion and Roe v. Wade and bring it back to the states. So, yeah. You just fulfilled a long, decades-long project that the Republicans have been trying to do, and they did it.
Says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it
Well,
came
I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote.
Yeah, because Republicans are shitty and they're gonna block Democrats from voting for it. Yep.
Can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's
Filibuster.
Just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. in all fairness. J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through
For real.
is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I have to respond.
Freedom.
Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader.
Fertilization.
In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month,
Republicans are like banning IVF and shit. What are you talking about?
9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v. Wade,
Answer the question, would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former
baby
governor
guillotines.
of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank
Baby guillotines.
you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents
The
on
Republicans
the border
blocked
to help
a
those
bill
folks who are working
that the
there
Democrats
right now
put forward.
overtime trying
Damn.
to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl
Not just
coming into the United States.
the Democrats
I know
put it
there are so
forward,
many
like,
families watching tonight.
There were a
who've
lot of
been personally
Republicans that wanted
affected
this bill.
by the surge of fentanyl
But Trump told
in
the
our
Republicans
country.
to
That bill
vote it down.
would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations.
It was a bad
for
bill that
trafficking
would
in
make the
guns,
border
drugs,
way
and human
worse
beings. But
and
you know what
worse
happened
for
to that
immigrants.
bill?
But
Donald Trump got on the phone.
if Trump cares about
called up
immigration,
some
he should have
folks in
voted for it.
Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
True.
And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch.
This part's
You will
good.
see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter.
He will talk about windmills cause cancer.
Asylum, they're
And what
coming
you
from
will also
asylum.
notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your
Look how he's leaning in, dude.
characters
Look
like
at this.
Hannibal
Look at
Lecter
it.
you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch.
Bro, look at his face.
You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is
Yo,
that
he's
people
so
start
low
leaving his
energy.
rallies
Look at him.
early out of exhaustion and boredom.
Look at him. Look at his eyes.
And I will tell
Oh.
you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you.
His
You will
eyes.
not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your is you. And boredom. Is that
Look at
people
his
start leaving
eyeballs,
his
bro.
rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk, one thing you will not hear him the
Look at his eyes.
and boredom.
Look at his eyeballs. He awoken when he heard boredom. People are leaving his rallies in boredom. He fucking awoken, dude. Oh my god. Anyways.
And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't
That's
go to
it.
her rallies.
He
There's
lost
no
track
reason
of
to go.
anything. Anything on
And
his mind,
the
he lost
people that
track.
do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there. And then showing
Look, she's
them in a
smiling because it
different light.
worked. She
So
found out
she
that it
can't talk
worked. The
about that.
whole
People don't leave
talk
my
about his rally
rallies. They're The
size.
biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in
He
the
gets
history
so
of politics.
mad about
That's
rally
because
size.
people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over
They're
the
eating your
United States.
dogs.
And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people
They're
that came
eating
in,
the dogs.
They're eating the cats.
They're eating the cats.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in
Oh
our
my
country. And it's a
God.
shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great, and millions of people to come into our country and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television.
I've seen people on television
taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking.
Bro, he's like the boomer on Facebook that sees some random fake news. The boomer that sees some random fake news about, like, you know, like fucking kitty litter being put in like ranger stations so that terrorists attack it and blow it up with a nuclear radio. It's like some random story. He believes anything. He's a Fox News grandpa. Oh my God.
This from
but
television.
The people
I'm taking it from the city manager.
Their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
Yeah, for real.
You know, this is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain.
That is not a good thing in my book. But maybe the normies will eat it up.
Including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney.
That's a terrible endorsement. That's the worst endorsement in the entire world. That's a war criminal.
Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States.
He does. He wanted to cancel the Constitution.
His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense
Did he lick?
has said contempt for the Constitution of the United States.
Okay.
His former national security advisor has
thought he
said
licked some yellow shit off his
unfit.
lip or a white thing off his lip, but it was just
Secretary of
spit.
Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond
here. Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people, not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah,
It
they
is
will.
much higher because
Yep.
of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or
my
we're going to kill
God.
you. Do you know the crime in Venezuela?
Bro, there are drug dealers in here already. They don't need to come out from other countries to come here to do that business.
And crime in countries all over the world is way down. You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all.
fabric
They've
of our
destroyed
country.
The fabric of our country.
This is like white supremacist lingo 101. This is some fascist shit. When people start talking about the fabric of a country, the blood, blood and soil, like that's fascist rhetoric.
Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again.
He's a psychopath, bro. He can do anything he wants. He can kill people,
he would
and
terminate, I'm quoting,
that's okay.
terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy.
No, you probably took a bullet to the head, or almost took a bullet to the head, because a weirdo incel online loser tried to kill anybody near them, and you were the closest one, and probably because you were a pedophile. Thought you were a pedophile because you're connected to Jeffrey Epstein, a PDF file. So, I don't know. I don't think it was because of Democrats. I think it's because of other things.
With a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States, and in fact, I was the top.
Listen, if she's not gonna ban fracking, I want her to ban fracking. I don't give a fuck about fracking. I'm from PA, but I hope if she doesn't ban it, at least heavily regulate it. Heavily regulate fracking. That's the least you could do, Kamala. Come on.
Breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your response?
First of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were.
Prices?
I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline.
That's because Saudi Arabia stopped pumping. Is he talking about when COVID hit? Or when Saudi Arabia stopped pumping oil to raise the price because scarcity?
So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out of. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a lot of
So what, bro? Oil takes up so much fucking land too. You need to mine the land, you idiot.
Not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And no.
You said peacefully and patriotically, and then you said, I'll march down with you to the Capitol. What the fuck does patriotically mean? Isn't patriotically like people that fight for their country and shit? Like the movie The Patriot, like, is that a peaceful movie? I feel like when you throw in patriotically, that's like a negative and a positive. Like, you throw in peacefully but patriotically, people are gonna be like, oh, we gotta fight for our country because you were saying the election is stolen. So if the election is stolen, that's like something you gotta fight for. Like, if the election actually was stolen, like, people would fight for that. So why would you say it's stolen, but then also say march peacefully and patriotically? You know, he always says shit like this, like half truths and half, like, he's always like dipping his toe into like bad shit. Like when he said to the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by, like he's always saying weird little like, stay here but stay in, you know, do this but do that. It's like, come on, bro. He's such a squirmy little fucker.
Nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done.
The border czar.
What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted?
I'm pretty sure Minneapolis is still a city and it's still there. It's not burnt down. It's funny how these people see one building burning. They're like, the whole city's burning. The whole city's burning. It's on fire, the whole thing. Ah! It's like, what, dude? It's one fucking building, dude. One building.
Or in Seattle. They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask you.
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., And the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her
That's
daughter
not
has
true.
a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for
Nancy Pelosi's daughter has a tape of her saying she's fully responsible for what happened in the Capitol.
what happened. They want to get rid of that
Why?
tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation.
Bro got like 80 fucking court cases on him. And he lost like 60 court cases trying to like reverse the election. Like when he lost, he took a bunch of court cases to court to see if he actually won. And he didn't win. He lost, dude, twice through court and through the election.
Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And what did the president then at the time say?
Stand back and stand by. There's good people on both sides.
There were fine people on each side.
Yeah.
Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by.
Yep.
So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
He said there will be a bloodbath. He said Christians go out and vote just this once and you won't have to do it anymore. He said, I want to be dictator on day one. He said on day one we'll be dictator and drill baby drill. He said like close the border and drill baby drill. It's like, okay, that's scary. You know, lock the border down, just drill oil and be authoritarian. It's so weird, dude. This guy's a fucking nut. He's a nut. This dude has said Hitler has some good ideas. He was like, I'm sure Hitler has some good ideas. Yeah. He's hung out with Nick Fuentes, the Nazi, the neo-Nazi, and Kanye West. He had them over at the White House. Yeah, bro, crazy shit has happened. It's really insane. Like, he is actually going down the fascist Nazi hole. It's insane. We live in this reality.
Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on
America still export the most oil in the whole world.
Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people.
These are all right-wingers.
They covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every
These are all
newspaper,
right-wingers.
but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up.
Nobody
They
believes
bring all of this
right-wingers.
stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol.
Right-wingers
Why
lie.
are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border. How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate, because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border, because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills.
Bro, she's still the vice president. She can't do shit. But it's up to Biden, and Biden is a dead corpse. He's a walking corpse. He's a zombie. He can't talk. He can't do anything. So she can't do anything. You can't tell her to go sign a bill.
They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you, because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
Yep.
I said that.
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told
both people running got the most votes. It was like a insane election with both sides getting big numbers, but Biden still won. Biden got more numbers than Trump, even though both candidates had the most on record votes for an election. Like, it was just a lot of people that voted that time on both sides. So like, it's not like Trump only got the most votes. Biden also got a lot of votes, like on record number.
Told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm. Lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread
standing.
fraud.
That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election.
Jesus
that was
Christ.
won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying,
dictatorship, dictatorship.
We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be
Yep,
clear about
we fired
that.
your
And
ass.
clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election.
Yep, fuck out of here.
And I'm going to tell you that I
Trump.
have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk...
It's funny how he acts all buff and stuff, and he acts all machismo and like strong. It's like, bro, you're a fat fuck that eats McDonald's. Like, nobody's scared of you. You're just fragile. You have a fragile ego.
Talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election. It leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a
Viktor Orban, the dictator of Hungary. What the fuck? Dude, nobody knows Viktor Orban. Nobody cares about him.
He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him.
Nobody's afraid of you, bro.
Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person
Viktor Orban is an
Donald Trump.
authoritarian right-wing
We had no problems
dictator.
when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages
Oh
who are still
no,
being
this is
held,
the worst
Americans
part for
among them.
fucking
Vice
Democrats.
President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians.
Okay,
you said
that's
that
good.
9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead, nearly 100.
That's not true. If you look at the Lancet Journal of Medicine, it's actually around 100 and something thousand Palestinians that are dead. So she's even stating a really outdated number.
Hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7th,
Hamas, a brutal terrorist.
a terrorist organization,
Blah, 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 blah. I'm
slaughtered 1,200 Israelis.
just speed up
Many of
the-
them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now. Israel.
Women were also raped by Israel and the IDF. And the IDF in Israel have giant rape camps. They're like literal prisons where they're shoving rods, electric rods, metal rods, having dogs bite people's balls and shit. So some dude went to like the hospital with a bleeding asshole. Like he was bleeding out the ass. And one guy died. Because there was a hot rod. They put a rod that was heating up. So yeah, don't tell me about like Hamas raping, because like, that's bullshit. That was debunked. The mass rape, the Hamas mass rape, that's bullshit.
Has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end
Blah
immediately,
blah
and the
blah
way it
blah
will
blah
end is we
blah
need a
blah
ceasefire
blah
deal. We
blah
need the
blah
hostages
blah
out.
blah blah
And so
blah
we will
blah
continue to
blah
work
blah
around the
blah
clock
blah
on
blah
that.
blah.
Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel and an equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing
Get the
of
job
more
done.
innocent
Kill them
civilians in Gaza?
already.
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either. But
Yeah, if he was if Trump was president, nothing would ever happen ever. Nothing would have ever happened. Ukraine wouldn't have happened. Israel wouldn't have happened. Yemen wouldn't have happened. Nothing would have happened. That's all he says. Nothing. That wouldn't have happened.
by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party.
Fuck Netanyahu. She shouldn't
hates
meet him
Israel.
anyways.
If
She
she's
shouldn't have met
president,
him.
I believe that
That's good.
Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope
whoa,
I'm
don't
wrong
make me
about
vote
that
for her
one.
now. Chill,
She
Biden.
hates
Chill,
Israel.
Trump. Chill.
At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror. Horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported
wish she
Israel and the
hated
Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un, and it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid.
Trump.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Well, it's about time.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets.
Yeah, I bought your mutt and I ate him, his little face.
Talk about extreme. Well, let's talk about extreme. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression.
Put it in reverse.
Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in the century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess.
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics. Everything that she believed 3 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets.
Yeah, I bought your mutt and I ate him, his little face.
Talk about extreme. Donald Trump has no plan for you.
Excuse me, I have to respond. She doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences. Like run, spot, run.
Like run, spot, run.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
Wait a minute, I'm talking now. Another lie. It's another lie. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets.
Yeah, I bought your mutt and I ate him, his little face.
Talk about extreme. Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. Clearly, he has had a very difficult time processing that. And I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch.
People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's busing them in and paying them to be there.
And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back.
Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page.
In Springfield, they're eating the
Dogs, they're eating the cats.
They're eating the pets.
Yeah, I bought your mutt and I ate him, his little face.
Talk about extreme.
A lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after this.
It was a regular day for 19-year-old Melissa Witt.
She went to meet her mom at a
ABC News Live. Live from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back to this historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. they're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
They threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even...
Wow, such a pro-animal guy. Threw him in the campaign like a dog.
No, is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interests for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also, as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now, But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David.
I mean,
a place of story.
I'm not gonna lie, like, where else are you supposed to do politics and negotiations with other countries or groups? Camp David sounds like a decent spot. I don't know why that really matters. So I don't really care about that, but yeah, I see what she's trying to say. She's trying to pull the regular American heartstring of, oh, he invited terrorists to the greatest place.
storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States.
She was about to say, this piece of shit.
Commander-in-Chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban.
Abdul.
And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he
Abdul, don't do it, Abdul. I told you, Abdul, if we do it again, we're going to have problems, Abdul.
said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers.
You never got out.
Left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left.
How would you have been out faster than the Democrats or Biden when he pulled out if you never pulled out?
$85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in
At
the
least
history of
they
our country.
did a
And by the way,
withdrawal.
that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you.
You didn't withdraw at all.
I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris,
She
quote,
became
I
a
didn't
black
know she was
person.
black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care.
I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care.
I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I
asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was a
landlord.
Land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5.
Yup.
Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this.
I don't know,
She
man.
is
I don't
Biden.
trust you,
You know,
bro.
she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up,
I
Lindsay.
want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child.
Yeah, but Trump has a plan for tax cuts for the rich, so I don't know, lady. And oppressive shit and authoritarian stuff, so they like that.
Child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's turn
Trump,
back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay. Thank
That's
you, Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump,
the
President
former
Trump.
president has
No,
said
I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I just need
going to move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he
President
has said
Trump, this is
multiple
now
times.
your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it, and we're going to replace it. But remember
Obamacare is lousy health care. If we come up with something better, we're gonna replace it. That's what I said.
this. I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones, too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if...
I have concepts of a plan. What an idiot.
And I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a
I have
plan.
concepts.
I'm not president right now.
I have schematics of a plan. I have drawings of a plan. I have sketches of a plan.
But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not-too-distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this
They
stuff.
own guns.
As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said, at the time because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we, over the last 4 years, have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it,
Vice President
prologue
Harris, thank
in terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot
She made
of...
a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax.
Yeah, he don't believe that shit. He don't believe climate change.
That it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue.
Yep, I care.
And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that
Trump said he was going to keep a job called the Carrier facility, the Carrier company in the USA. As soon as he was elected, he gave them a tax cut, and they fucking fired a bunch of workers and moved their plants overseas. The Carrier facility. So get the fuck out of here.
part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one?
Why are you so
Ukraine,
loyal?
China?
Why are you so loyal to Saudi Arabia, Trump? Why are you so loyal to Israel, Trump? Why are you so loyal to fucking North Korea, Trump? Why are you so loyal to, you know, name it, fucking who was that dude that lost in Brazil? Yeah, that guy. You're so loyal to many motherfuckers. Viktor Orban. You talked about Viktor Orban. Why are you so loyal to him?
Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did he
Why
get?
are you getting millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia through your golf courses?
Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President
I
Trump,
think your administration is the most crooked one of all.
thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Davis.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past.
Yep, that's
and
true.
an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years.
He's a vice president, bro.
They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just asked one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they laugh. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News.
Yo, David Muir is hot as fuck. Damn, boy. She's pretty, too. She's very pretty. Yeah. All right, that was interesting. That was very good, man. All right. Now let's check out the Haiti situation. Here we go.
Yes, it is a bit frustrating to spend a significant amount of time dismantling a bunch of completely fabricated, racist lies and conspiracy theories cooked up by extremely right-wing weirdos and then parroted by conservative talking heads and members of our own government. But that's what we have to do once again, because on Monday of this week, one of the most insane, made-up stories became the biggest news story online because vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance posted about it as if it were real, which led to a tidal wave of posts and memes from all of the usual suspects, including numerous elected officials. No, there is not a wave of Haitian immigrants stealing and eating people's cats.
But it'd be pretty crazy if they were, right?
But they didn't.
But like, if they were, like that would be, you know, the fact that I believed it says a lot about society and the way things are. Well, if that's not real, I'll tell you one thing that is real. J.D. Vance wears a shirt in the pool.
That's right.
What's up with that? But yeah, if the whole cat and eating thing sounds like an overtly racist conspiracy.
My God, what a weirdo.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. But it's a story that has absolutely dominated conservative media over the past day or so, despite being a completely...
J.D. Vance wears a shirt in a pool. That's some weird shit. And you know how I know that's some weird shit? Because I used to wear shirts in pools. I had that anxiety. I had social anxiety. I couldn't, like, be looked at in pools and shit without a shirt. I would wear a shirt in a pool. I'm weird. JD Vance is weird. That's how I know.
Made up story that originated from, we shit you not, someone who posted a story on Facebook that they'd heard from a neighbor's daughter's friend.
Yeah. There's simply no proof. It's bullshit. And even though it's completely fabricated, every habitually online conservative posted about it as if it were not only real, but an epidemic that casts every person of Haitian descent as an illegal immigrant who feasts on people's pets. It's a disgusting lie
Yeah, that's
that's
so
made worse
fucked up.
by people in power who are amplifying it as if it's something everyone in the country should be absolutely terrified about. Even though, as this story
That's
was
really
spreading,
fucked
there
up.
was still an active manhunt for an armed and dangerous shooter in Kentucky who was able to buy an AR-15 rifle and 1,000 rounds of ammunition the morning that he decided to shoot a bunch of people from a highway overpass.
What were you talking about? You talking about those Haitians eating ducks and cats? Was that what you were talking about?
Nor was I talking about the very real school shooting that happened last week during the first week of school. No, instead we're just making things up now.
So what the hell's going on here? How did this rumor start? Why is it being spread by conservatives?
Yeah, conservatives just like fake shit. They don't care about the real issues facing society. It's so sad. They rather spread fake news like all the time. Like just go on Twitter, dude. It's insane.
Conservatives, and why are they continuing to spread it through posts and memes, even though it has been debunked by local residents as well as the local police department? Well, to answer that question, it's because they're being fucking racist. And they're trying to further sow division between people by scaring them into thinking that somehow.
By the way, leave a like button, hit the like button, leave a like, leave a comment, say hello.
Coming for your pets.
It all helps. It all helps.
Really feels like this is an attempt to do the same fear-mongering that they've done in the past with the migrant caravans that always seem to pop up right around election time, except now they're going with, well, actually, migrant criminals are here right now. And they're currently hunting and or eating your pets.
Your dog and cat.
Sophie, Snowball, they're getting hunted and eaten. Now here's the backstory, though, from local outlet, the Springfield News-Sun.
A social media post originally from a Springfield Facebook group went viral nationally in recent days. The original poster did not cite firsthand knowledge of an incident. Instead, they claimed that their neighbor's daughter's friend had lost her
Oh my
pet
god.
and found it.
My neighbor's daughter's friend. Imagine someone told you that one day. They were like, hey, my neighbor's daughter's friend said this stupid, dumb bullshit that sounds radically crazy happened. That's a lie. You can tell it's a lie immediately. My neighbor's daughter's friend. Are you serious? Who's who? Hearsay of hearsay?
It hanging from a branch at a Haitian neighbor's home being carved up to be eaten. The poster also claimed rangers and police told them that, quote, they have been doing it at Snyder Park too, with ducks and geese. And they add that the Springfield Police Division said Monday morning they have received no reports related to pets being stolen and eaten. Now, okay, there is one small shred of truth that started all of this. A 27-year-old woman named Alexis Farrell was recently charged with animal abuse for reportedly killing and eating a cat in a town nearly 200 miles away, which is absolutely horrific. But nowhere in the coverage or police reports does it indicate
some
this
lady
woman
on
is a
drugs.
migrant or an immigrant, illegal or otherwise.
Some lady
In
on
fact, people
drugs.
pulled her voter registration information showing that she's an American citizen who happens to be black and not a recent Haitian migrant. She's just a piece of shit who killed an animal and was arrested for it. Not that it really matters because it was instantly used to vilify all people of Haitian descent regardless of their status.
Anyways, when this story was posted by, god damn it, non-American, speaking of people who
Ian Miles Chong. Look at that ugly
never
fuck.
stepped foot in this country, but he's a leading authority on all issues affecting the United States of America. But yeah, someone replied to him asking if maybe drugs were to blame.
Maybe.
He replied, worse, Haitians.
Oh my god.
That's you just being racist. Charlie Kirk replied to that, falsely adding, lots of reports of Haitians eating people's pets. Just out of thin air. But yeah, that's the kind of overt racism we're dealing with here. The story was taken, relocated to another town entirely, slapped with unsubstantiated claims about race and immigration status, and used to group an entire population of people into being animal abusers.
That's so
who
fucked
feast on
up.
people's pets. Here's the Washington Post with more on the spread of this disinformation. Trump and his allies and his running mate are elevating false or unsubstantiated claims about immigrants injuring and eating pets and other animals. And of course, blaming the Biden administration and Trump's opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, for this thing that is not demonstrably happening.
This message was clipped and shared by a putative breaking news account on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. It was paired with a photo of a black man carrying a goose and walking down a street.
And by the way, guys, later on, we're going to cover how a lot of these right-wing channels on YouTube, like Tim Pool and maybe even the Daily Wire and like some other groups, a lot of these right-wingers are probably paid by Russia, because Tim Pool and Benny Johnston and a few others, Dave Rubin, got caught being paid by a Russian LLC front media group that was tied to RT, the Russian propaganda network. Now, look, there's no money on the left. That's what I'm saying. There's no money on the left. There's a lot of money on the right.
In short order, the post was picked up by a number of prominent voices on the right, including Trump advisors.
And this is probably why, because the right gets a lot of money from the Russia or some rich billionaire or like a company or corporation. On the left, there's what? Unions, activists, I don't know, like scientists. Like, there's not a lot of money over here.
Stephen Miller. From there, it metastasized, with people plucking pieces of information off the internet and attaching it to the original claim as though it was supporting evidence. They then add that one of the attachments used to back up the claim was video from a local community meeting where a local podcaster, who is also running for mayor, regurgitated the lie. And also add that one of the originators of this spread was the End Wokeness account, which is widely assumed to be run by alt-right provocateur Jack Fri-Sat. Now, eventually, this bullshit worked its way up from the social media sewers all the way to elected officials like Ted Cruz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and, as we mentioned, vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance, who was recently photographed swimming with his shirt on.
Oh, my God.
Freak. Absolute freak. What are you doing? But yeah, a lot of these posts include, generative AI slop to drive home their non-existent arguments. Here's just a few of the examples. From the House Judiciary GOP account, protect our ducks and kittens in Ohio, with an AI image of Trump swimming and hugging a duck and a cat. Can he swim? Have we ever seen him swim?
He probably does with a shirt on. From Elon Musk, who posted an image of Bart and Lisa Simpson mourning their cat and adding, Ohio right now.
From Representative Gymnasium Jordan, who turned a blind eye to sexual assault allegations at The Ohio State University. When President Trump was in office, 1, the border was secure, and 2, illegal aliens weren't eating your pets.
Ted Cruz, who famously left his family's pet dog at home during a snowstorm while he escaped to Cancun, posted a bunch of laughing, crying emojis above an image of 2 cats that read, "Please vote for Trump so Haitian immigrants don't eat us."
Oh, my God.
Similarly,
that was
wow.
tweeted by the racism watchdog, which just kept barking and woofing the entire time.
Yeah, it's not enough.
They don't have enough character limits.
Yeah, you got to get that verified badge. But similarly, Cat Turd 2, a friend of Cat's, posted, "Hide your pets from Kamala," despite not that long ago killing his own pet dog because he backed over it in the driveway. Which, yeah, that's a terrible accident, but also glass houses, sir.
Yes.
And yeah, I guess we should also point out the conservatives are trying to somehow tie this entire story to Kamala Harris, because of course they are. But they're doing so under the guise that she's for open borders, despite Republicans killing an extremely strict border security bill so they could use it as fear-mongering.
Marjorie Taylor Greene hijacked some broadcast meeting about January 6th to say the following on camera.
Can we add in that there's Haitian illegal migrants taking over towns, eating people's pets, but yet there's not a government show of force against that? However, it is against these people that protested the election.
Well, they're not as dangerous.
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
I just wanted to interject that. Thank you.
And Ian Miles Chung also posted an AI image about the claims, this one saying that Springfield has one hope, and it's an image of Trump running away from 2 black men while holding 2 cats. And look, we just want to point out that of all people to claim as an animal lover,
Jesus
the idea
Christ,
that Trump would be some savior to any animal is absurd, because he famously hates animals.
Yeah, not a fan.
He was the first president in recent history to not have a pet while in the White House. He was attacked by a bald eagle, and his sons are despicable trophy hunters who pay for the thrill of shooting large animals and posing with their corpses.
And you forget, he's got the morals of an alley cat.
Oh, yeah.
So he does have that going for him.
Still, the Trump campaign sent out an email amidst all of this that read, in part, migrants have reportedly been caught decapitating ducks and hunting geese and other livestock in public parks, and even kidnapping residents' pets, then eating them.
And Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, posted a video that has no relation to the story about people eating cats and added, months ago, I raised the issue of Haitian illegal immigrants draining social services and generally causing chaos all over Springfield, Ohio. Reports now show that people have had their pets abducted and eaten by people who shouldn't be in this country. Whereas our borders are. So yeah, once again, attacking Kamala Harris.
But the clip that JD posted is very telling in regards to what's actually happening in Springfield, Ohio, which is that it was a dying town with a dwindling population that was revitalized by an influx of immigration, which is legal as people from Haiti flee the violence in their home country. And this has resulted in a net positive for the town, something that is even highlighted by their local government and Chamber of Commerce. The problem that he says is the town is facing a lack of housing because people are actually moving to work and live there, which, first of all, that's a problem in a lot of places. But that's because when you have an influx of people, they need a place to live.
Yeah.
These folks have moved there with legal status and are already rebuilding an economy that was on the downturn, bringing industry and jobs back to an area that, and they're just literally fulfilling their personal American dreams.
No, you're not allowed to do that.
This is literally a great example.
No dreams for you.
A great example of what this country was built on.
Yeah, well, but when I picture it in my head, the people look a little bit different.
Yeah. So it's very infuriating. And the fact that elected officials, candidates, and Elon Musk are perpetuating this literal fake news is maddening because people will take it all at face value and spread the racist message, which can and does create violence against people who are literally just trying to live their lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good. Also, we'd like to point out that the political party that's doing so much hand-wringing about this bullshit is the same one that just openly embraced and accepted an endorsement from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., offered him a position in a potential administration. They love RFK, even though he's had at least 3 recent stories involving the desecration of animal corpses that we know of.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Confirmed by him and his family members.
I was up in the North Sea. I was off the coast of Norway, and I saw this beautiful white whale swimming around, and well,
I just had to kill it.
It's a funny story. So yeah, just everyone, just please shut up. God damn it! One Facebook post led to all this. And no one spreading this shit is ever gonna admit that they were wrong. They were taken for a loop.
No, because this is doing it's having the exact result that they want.
Yeah, it's just wild. Like,
this is going to, by the way, the debate is tomorrow night, or tonight if you're watching this on Tuesday. This will probably be brought up. And that's why it's very suspicious that all of the sudden this fake story is being lifted up into everyone's fucking timelines
this one
and posts.
And the one out of Colorado about the apartment complex. A Venezuelan cartel has taken over an entire, and like all the facts on the ground are just like, yeah, I don't know, maybe gang members live there. It's a bad part of town, but like none of what everyone is claiming has happened, according to all of the authorities in the area. But yeah, it's interesting timing.
Manufacturing news as an argument.
It just seems like you or I or anyone watching could just literally intentionally write. Just just a bunch of lies on Facebook if they were lies that were targeted at the exact prejudices of the MAGA cult, and that shit would be on Fox News within 6 hours. It's crazy.
For real, yo.
Well, with that out of the way, let's quickly thank our sponsors and hopefully get back to some news that doesn't make us want to rip our eyeballs out.
Russia banning YouTube. Tenant members deleted. We can watch the tenant members deleted.
Oh, but also on a quick, funny update to the whole Russian influence scandal involving Tenet Media, one of their hosts, Taylor Hansen, who was actively taking money from the Russians despite claiming to have been duped, also claimed that YouTube permanently banned his account after the DOJ report was made public. He posted a screenshot of what he claims was an email from YouTube that stated, Taylor Hansen, we have removed your channel from YouTube. Adding, and I just got permanently banned from YouTube. Except, well, no, sir. Doesn't look as though
Nope.
you were banned.
He banned himself.
If someone were to try to visit one of his uploaded videos, as reporter Stephen Monticelli did after he made the claim. It provides the following message. This video is no longer available because the uploader has closed their YouTube account. If a channel's banned, you get a different message than that.
Yeah, because when I was editing our Tenant Media video, they had, YouTube had removed the channel, and it specifically indicated that it had been banned for violations.
Yeah.
So...
Loser.
Also, none of the other big names involved got banned by the platform.
Yeah, none of their personal channels got banned. Yeah.
You should have coordinated with your friends on this one. So yeah, it looks like this guy just shut his own YouTube account down for sympathy. And if we had to guess, he did so in order to play the victim and claim he's being censored. But also to scrub any evidence of looking like a puppet for the Russian government. Two birds.
Yeah.
And one stone.
What a dork. What a loser.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Now let's check out the story about Russian influence. Where's that at? Here it is.
Well. Turns out it actually is the guys that you think it is because, folks, according to an indictment that was made public on Wednesday of this week, the Russian government was surreptitiously funneling millions of dollars into the bank accounts of some very prominent right-wing influencers, including Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Dave Rubin, Matt Christensen, and Lauren Southern.
Bro, what's up with Tim Pool's eyeballs? Look at their eyes. Why are they all fucking... They're like vampires.
Through a series of shell companies. These content creators have already claimed to have been the victims in this scheme. Victims, despite being paid upwards of $100,000 per video to sow division among American citizens
I want to be a victim
spread
like that.
blatant Russian disinformation. Now, it's been a wild 24 hours.
Please
as we've read through
victimize
the
me.
indictments and witnessed countless video clips and statements that become kind of more damning with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah.
Also, I can't even... We're doing a serious story, and you got a mustache.
Well, I guess it's time to let everyone know.
No.
Internet Today has been a 6-year sting operation, and you are all under arrest.
Fuck, you got me.
Turn around and spread them.
I spread them in
Get
the...
that push broom out of here. It better be gone by Monday.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to be there Monday? If I take any more off,
yeah, you're gonna
look
be
what happens.
Looking like
you don't want that.
Tucker Carlson.
Looking like someone else. Of course, it's always seemed extremely suspicious that these particular conservative influencers seem to just always take the side of the Kremlin on countless issues, especially as it relates to the Ukraine war. But it's not just that, it's the general chaos that they've attempted to sow by latching on to the most extreme side of whatever current culture war topic is, the narratives that they've pushed, which have actual real-world consequences for minority groups, and the constant claim that the country is literally on the verge of World War III.
Or a civil war. Tim Pool and...
He has tweeted out civil war, I believe, hundreds of times at this point. And never turns out to be the case. But one of these days, he's going to be right.
And then we're all going to look so
We're
silly.
all going to be like, I'm sorry for making fun of the fact that you wear a beanie at all hours, in all seasons of the year.
Yeah.
So no, we're not at all surprised that these guys were easy marks for a Russian influence campaign. The Kremlin wouldn't even have to change much of their content in the first place. But the financial incentive to keep regurgitating these talking points almost certainly emboldened them.
Yeah, a question that we've seen raised a lot since this news broke is, what's worse? That these guys either knowingly participated in a Russian disinformation campaign, or that they were so stupid they had no idea that they were being played by the Russians, despite mysteriously and suddenly making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, in some cases, to spread disinformation to an audience that was all too eager to believe every word of it.
And this raises an interesting point, because yeah, for most of us, including us, if someone showed up with $100,000 to make one video, I'd be like, something's going on here. This is suspicious. But in the conservative media ecosystem, these people are making bank all the time off of content that does not justify that kind of money, but there are forces at play, usually domestic forces, but in this case, foreign forces, that, they see that spending this money gets results, so they do it.
We'll get to the quote, the exact quote, but at one point, Tim Pool even says that, like, he had only spoken to the person that had secured this deal twice in the last year.
It's so sketchy.
Maybe question it more.
Yeah, anyway, we would love to show a bunch of the clips from their shows as examples of all this. They're out there, but yeah, the one surefire tactic that they still have is copyright claiming any videos that air those clips.
Yeah.
Hell, Tim Pool, in his
I hate Tim Pool, bro. I hate
was
him.
going to sue the Kamala Harris campaign for simply posting one of his clips and quoting him. And yeah, kind of funny that the second he says he's going to sue Kamala Harris, FBI knocking at his door.
That is literally the take of Jack Prilosek.
Oh, it is.
As if the DOJ can whip up this indictment.
Hey, go write
like
a 100-page indictment. We got, I don't know, 12 hours. We're going to whip up a conspiracy out of whole cloth overnight because some YouTuber hasn't even filed a lawsuit, just says he's going to.
And then also we're going to need a ton of information, including wire transfers, Discord conversations.
Got to make it look really believable.
Just absolutely insane.
These are the people we're dealing with. They're not very smart.
But since we can't show clips, we can at least quote from one of the more egregious clips that are making the rounds. Keeping in mind that this dude was allegedly paid millions of dollars by Russia to produce content in recent months. Here's what Tim Pool said about Ukraine recently while getting very angry and literally pounding his desk.
I love when he gets angry because, like, I think in his mind, he's like, I'm getting real fucking, I'm instilling fear. I'm really projecting confidence and strength, but he
comes off as a toddler throwing a fit.
Yeah, exactly.
But here's a quote from the video that's making the rounds, and the clip will be linked down below. This is what he said. "This is psychotic. Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress again, one of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine. Ukraine is the greatest threat to this nation and to the world. We should rescind all funding and financing, pull out all military support, and we should apologize to Russia."
Wow, okay. I mean, listen, like, I think there are valid criticisms of the U.S. relationship with Ukraine, but this is literally just the exact position of the Russian government.
And as we'll see later on, going down the line of a bunch of issues that are very real in America, their entire purpose is to point out these things and exacerbate them through people like this to kick up storm and sow division. That's the entire point. We saw it happen between Black Lives Matter and all this stuff back in during the pandemic in 2016. There's multiple books written about it by people who literally built the programs that allowed them to do this. There's a great one by the guy who helped code Cambridge Analytica called Mindfuck.
Yeah, they're just turning up the thermostat and getting everyone all agitated.
But of course, that sounds pretty suspicious, even when he originally said it. And it actually sounds kind of treasonous now that the funding has been exposed.
Yeah, Tim.
But Pool has gone into complete chaos mode in the hours since the indictment was released, refuting previous claims, making up new ones, and continuing to dig his hole deeper. Also, just putting out numerous contradictory claims as jokes. But we'll get into that.
Tim doth protest.
We'll get into that in a second.
So the company that they were all being paid to produce content for was called Tenet Media.
And I want to be clear.
No relation to Christopher.
Yeah, Tim Pool does that a lot. Whenever he's frustrated, he starts tweeting like contradictory statements. Like, oh, I think socialism's good. Oh, I think socialism's bad. Oh, I think this, that, you know? It's very weird. He's a little kid.
Nolan's film, which I still haven't seen.
The producing content thing, as clarified by their own statements, and I want to be very clear here because whatever, they were licensing clips and podcast stuff. And
so they weren't even producing original content?
Some of them might have been, but specifically in Tim Pool's case, they were taking like clips and putting it on their thing. They were licensing and funding parts
That's even
of the
crazier. Yeah. If someone shows up with a briefcase
and you're
full
not
of $1 billion
anything,
and they're like, okay, so what do you want me to make? Oh no, you don't
just
have
keep
to make
doing
anything.
what you're doing.
Just keep. You have to literally do nothing. We're just licensing clips from your existing show to put on this other channel.
Now have fun buying the local skate park with all this money. So, and like we said, we'll get into the Tenet corporate structure and the details of the indictment next, but let's take a quick peek at the type of videos that they were putting up over there. These are just some of the recent videos on the official Tenet Media YouTube page. CIA and FBI at war with Alex Jones. Woke police are not
Woke
woke police are not doing their jobs. Illegals are in your city. The war on men, and this one obviously has Charlie Kirk in it. Migrant crime is surging. Harry Potter's betrayal of J.K. Rowling.
They're playing all the hits.
Protesters are all ugly, and that one features the quartering. We are being replaced? San Francisco Pride, the slippery slope is very real. Canada is becoming a communist hellhole. Should we feel bad for Harvey Weinstein's victims?
Wait, what?
The media is lying about Project 2025, and so on and so forth.
I wasn't aware the Harvey Weinstein thing was a culture war issue. I was under the impression that what he did was bad, and we should feel bad for his victims because he sexually
It was
assaulted
very
them
bad.
and then had them blacklisted from Hollywood. But hey, maybe there's
This
a
is the
different
kind of
point
stuff
of view.
that Tenet loves, and they saw that clip and they were like, cool, let's put that on our own platform.
So the info section of Tenet Media explains that the company is a network of heterodox commentators that focus on Western political and cultural issues. Our goal is to support creators who question institutions that believe themselves to be above questioning. In our view, all issues du jour merit rigorous and honest discussion if one wants to come closest to the truth. For those interested in authentic coverage of the topics that matter most, Tenet Media is your home for content. Fearless voices live here.
And then
Which
you could
is-
assume, a couple steps down, they also said, and we love their warm water ports.
Yes. So yeah, it's all hilariously shameful in retrospect, or shameless, I guess. But now that you've got an idea of the content that was being produced for this company and by whom, let's check out the DOJ's indictment itself to see how this all went down. Links to the press release, indictment, anything else we reference will be down in the description below. An indictment charging Russian nationals Konstantin Kalashnikov, 31, also known as Kostya, and Elena Afanasieva, 27, also known as Lena, with conspiracy to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA, and conspiracy to commit money laundering, was unsealed today in the Southern District of New York. Kalashnikov and Afanasieva are at large.
According to the court documents, RT, formerly known as Russia Today, is a state-controlled media outlet funded and directed by the government of Russia. Over at least the past year, RT and its employees, including Kalashnikov and Afanasieva, deployed nearly $10 million to covertly finance and direct a Tennessee-based online content creation company, US Company One, now known to be Tenet Media. In turn, Company One published English-language videos on multiple social media channels, including TikTok, Instagram, X, and YouTube. Since publicly launching in or about November 2023, US Company One has posted nearly 2,000 videos that have garnered more than 16 million views on YouTube alone.
That's crazy because there's probably way more money that Russia's dumping, and other countries too, like Saudi Arabia, China, Iran, who fucking knows? Israel is buying a lot of politicians and literally just paying corruption.
Many of the videos posted by Company One contain commentary on events and issues in the U.S., such as immigration, inflation, and other topics related to domestic and foreign policy. While the views expressed in the videos are not uniform, most are directed to publicly stated goals of the government of Russia and RT, to amplify domestic divisions in the United States. In order to carry out RT's secret influence campaign in the United States, Kalashnikov and Afanasieva operated under covert identities. Posing as an outside editor, Kalashnikov edited content, monitored funding and hiring, and introduced Afanasieva as a member of his purported editing team. Using the fake personas Helena Shudra and Victoria Pesti, Afanasieva posted and directed the posting of hundreds of videos.
Afanasieva also collected information from and gave instructions to Company One staff. For example, after the March 22, 2024 terrorist attack on a music venue in Moscow, Afanasieva asked one of Company One's founders to blame Ukraine and the United States for the attack, writing, "I think we can focus on the Ukraine-US angle." The mainstream media spread fake news that ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack, yet ISIS itself never made such statements. All terrorists are now detained while they were heading to the border with Ukraine, which makes it even more suspicious why they would want to go to Ukraine to hide. And they go on to talk about the wire transfers and shell companies in places like the UAE and Turkey, which would eventually land in the pockets of the previously mentioned influencers. So now that we've covered the overall scope of this project, let's look at some of the important details as it relates directly to those influencers. And here's Will Sommer writing for the Washington Post.
Most of the 6 members of Tenet's talent team claim they did not know the money was coming from Russia. Canadian activist Lauren Southern has not issued a statement as of this writing. The indictment alleges that Tenet's founders and Russian backers misled at least 2 of them, Poole and Rubin, about the source of Tenet's funding by inventing a fictitious Belgian investor named Edouard Grigorian.
Edouard Grigorian.
Belgian investor.
The news that some of the right's biggest online stars had apparently unwittingly taken millions from the Kremlin provoked a wave of schadenfreude from their critics. On X, never-Trump conservative writer Christian Vanderbroek quipped that Tenet stars managed to see conspiracy theories everywhere, yet never questioned why a mysterious Belgian was paying them to prop up a little-watched YouTube channel. Lauren Chen and her husband aren't named in the indictment, but Tennessee corporate records identify them as Tenet founders. Prosecutors allege that the founders knew their funding was coming from Moscow and privately acknowledged in messages to each other that their backers were Russian.
This is so stupid. This is...
Well, we're lucky it was so stupid because they got caught.
Yeah, I just... this is just... It's so funny because, obviously the whole, Russia trying to influence America, it's been going on at this point for nearly a decade.
Well, more, but in the most recent aspect of it, yes.
In this context, and, in terms of, how it's worked before this, it hasn't, it hasn't been the way a lot of liberals picture it, where, half the people I'm talking to on Twitter are, Russian paid shills and bots and shit. It's been,
There is that, but...
I mean, it exists, but it's mostly just let's create a bunch of fucking, Facebook pages to, get people riled up.
They are fanning the flames of everything that's already happening and making it worse. That's the whole point.
But, something like this, we haven't seen anything on this level. In all the years since, the Russiagate stuff...
Cambridge Analytica was a pretty fucking big deal.
I mean... Maybe, but we're talking about actually literally Russians hiring Americans to spout Russian propaganda. That's not something that's happened. And it is very funny to me that in 2024, when the whole Russiagate stuff is kind of just something people see as a thing of the past, something like this comes up and it's oh, okay. A lot harder to hand wave this one away.
It is.
Anyway, Chen, who uses the social media handle Roaming Millennial, is well connected on the right. She has 572,000 YouTube subscribers on her own channel, and until recently hosted 2 online shows for Glenn Beck's website, The Blaze. In an email, Blaze CEO Tyler Cardin said Lauren Chen was an independent contractor whose contract has been terminated. And the article goes on to talk about the financing again and how it was divvied up amongst the team of creators. Dave Rubin, received $400,000 a month for 16 videos, plus a performance bonus and a $100,000 signing bonus, all for a series in which Rubin commented on dumb internet clips that often received just roughly 1,000 views per episode. Jesus. Tenet also proved lucrative for Poole, who made $100,000 per episode for a weekly show he hosted, according to prosecutors. But he did not get that bonus. Nope, not as good of a negotiator as Dave Rubin. The same month that Tenet launched, Poole purchased a skate park in Martinsburg, West Virginia, as well as other significant real estate purchases in the same area. Rubin and Poole initially asked for more information about where the money was coming from, prompting the Russians to invent Edouard Grigorian, a fictional Belgian banker committed to free speech, the indictment states.
Jesus Christ.
Again, you Google the name. See, okay, Edward Grigorian, Belgian investor.
Someone has got to have been talking about this guy throughout the past couple of years.
This guy must have some fucking evidence that he exists
Not
on the internet.
Not just a one sheet that was provided by the Russians, or maybe on what I assume, because we'll get to another part of this investigation where they had just a bunch of websites that were operating. But if you see a website where the only info about this guy is on a website that you've never fucking heard of before, that you should be a little more suspicious.
Just zero due diligence. And I'm the stuff about parroting Russian talking points directly because Russia paid you to do it, that's bad, but it's okay, that seems it's not surprising for this crowd of people. But the fact that they're just not doing any due diligence, I'm just like, that makes me lose respect.
As just like one example, I remember like 2 or 3 years ago, an underwear company approached us. One Google search led to the CEO of that company's Twitter page, which was filled with crazy right-wing shit. And just that alone, I was like, no.
Yeah, we do more due diligence for our advertisers.
Fucking, like Black Rifle coffee companies like approached us. There's a couple more that are just like bizarre to the point where you're like, this feels like a trap.
Yeah, an Israeli company almost got us, but we caught him at the last second.
That's right, yeah.
But like, again, like that's, when someone's paying you to represent them, due diligence is something you should get up to. And they didn't do any of that fucking shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, Grigorian's name was misspelled. Come on many documents. And the influencers could find no evidence online that he worked at the real bank where he claimed to have made his money. But hey, the check cleared.
Yeah. There's a whole lot more, including one section of the indictment where one of the founders tried to connect with someone at the parent company for overdue invoices, and when they didn't get an immediate response, went ahead, opened up a tab, and searched for what time it was in Moscow.
So she fucking knew.
Oh my God.
Also, a pretty funny part where Tenet Media was upset by the lack of viewership the channel was getting and insisted that the hosts weren't doing enough to promote the brand, which is, it's funny because that's a conversation that literally anyone who's worked in online media has had with their bosses at one point or another.
Well, it's, yeah. And like I was comparing this.
Turn on the viral hose.
Like Machinima would always, like in Machinima's like heyday where they had, the VC money was flowing. They'd be like, hey, this YouTuber's getting like millions of views per video. Let's pay him like a stupid amount of money to make a video that we put on our channel. And then they're like, why isn't this getting views? And it's like, okay, first of all, it's because you're publishing 50 videos a day and it just gets completely lost. But second of all, you didn't include promotion in the contract, you fucking idiot. That costs more money. You have to state the terms of promotion. Otherwise, they're not going to tell their fans to go watch this video.
Also, that creator would, you're never going to get the spillover of views that they would get on their own channel. So dumb. Anyways, yes. It's a very common conversation, or at least it was when the industry existed.
Yeah, I'll make your content, but if you want me to tweet about it, that's going to cost you extra. You got to put that in writing.
So in another very funny admission within the indictment, the founders talk about promoting the video of Tucker Carlson visiting the grocery store in Russia. But they thought it was too obvious.
Yeah, that was the one where he's like, wow, these shopping carts, you have to pay $0.25 to unlock them. And that's, you know, that means that people aren't stealing them.
And you get your quarter back when you return it.
Motherfucker, have you been to an Aldi?
No, he's never been.
Like, yeah, he's just like really just showing his ass. Just like, I have never actually been to
any grocery store,
any real place in America, the country that I constantly say is going to shit.
Even the people operating this Russian-backed company were like, this is too obvious.
Yeah, so on or about February 15th, Afansieva shared a video of a well-known U.S. political commentator visiting a grocery store in Russia.
Oh, who could that be?
Who could that? Side note, I fucking love in these government indictments. We saw this with, like, I think the one in Georgia with Trump, where, like, I don't know the exact reasons, but when they don't name names.
Yeah.
They list.
But it's very obvious.
They designate people with specific designations, like
commentator one or whatever.
But it's like, it's so fucking easy to just do like a little bit of connecting the dots and figuring out exactly who each of these people are.
Also very funny, a screenshot from CBS News where they blur.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They blur Tim Pool's
Oh my God, you could tell.
Timcast on the wall.
You can see it has a beanie on and everything.
I wonder who that could be. I mean, it could have been anyone. Is that Dr. Disrespect?
I bet he's really upset that he didn't get to cash in on this.
Yeah, I know.
He's probably desperate for some kind of money now. Yeah.
Anyways, Afansieva posted the video in the producer Discord channel. Later that day, producer 1 privately messaged founder 2 on Discord. They want me to post this, but it just feels like overt shilling. Founder 2 replied that founder 1 thinks we should put it out.
Probably is overt
Producer
shilling,
1
dude.
acquiesced, responding,
Come on.
all right, I'll put it out tomorrow. They literally thought Tucker Carlson was shilling too hard for Russia.
Woo.
But before we leave the Washington Post article behind and look into how these influencers responded to the indictment, we have to share this part because it's too good.
Yeah.
As the indictment news shook up the right-wing media world, much of the reaction, naturally, came in the form of YouTube live streams. On his show Wednesday, Poole claimed that he was skateboarding when he heard of the indictments and said he talked to Chen, the head of a company that was paying him $100,000 a week, only twice in the past year.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have missed that news. I was out skateboarding.
I wonder who that's. I was doing sick tricks at the skate park, the local skate park that I stole from the local community.
They hate me for it. Yeah. Insane. And look, I'm going to get a little serious here for a moment because, as you all know, I have family members who are brain poisoned. I just want to point out, obviously, everyone is in the right to make fun of people like Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Lauren Southern, and all them for unwittingly promoting Russian disinformation. And it's even funnier that they didn't even have to, like, coax them into it. They're just like, just keep doing what you're doing. This is working out great.
Yeah.
And look, there are no shortage of jokes about how much of a waste of money it was considering how low the views were on the Tenet Media page. But I feel like everyone who's joking about it is missing a bigger picture here. They were getting paid absurd amounts of money to do very little extra work. And based on their own admissions about being influenced or not, these are all things they actually believe and promote regardless.
Yeah, it's not like they had to really change anything up.
Now, sure, this seems like a giant waste of money for Russia, but it's honestly just a drop in the bucket for them. Meanwhile, the amount of money that was directly funding these guys perpetuates their success and existence on YouTube and elsewhere. It's not like they're good. That money extends the rest of their shows. It funds all of the other stuff. It's not just going away. And it has raised their status among literal members of the GOP. They bought property, they funded productions, they've paid employees, they bought fucking Cybertrucks and skate parks. This isn't just a case of, oh, well, they did a failed channel that failed, haha. No, they're still making this exact type of content on their own with the added bonus of a few $1,000,000 to fund
Literal
them.
corruption, bro.
And also, we all know how algorithms work by now. Any engagement with their personal channels or the ones that were directly tied to Tenet Media would send a user down a rabbit hole filled with more of this exact type of garbage. Just because a massive amount of people weren't consuming it directly from the Tenet Media page on YouTube doesn't mean they weren't having this served to them elsewhere either. Also, no shortage of jokes about how dumb their viewers must feel right now. But their viewers would have to have a shred of self-reflection to feel that way, or the ability to question the narrative that they've been blasted with for a decade now. Every hot take is made under the impression that you're dealing with rational people and not willfully stupid assholes with the worst intentions who have been slowly brain poisoned since at least 2016. And every joke is being made under the impression that their viewers will just see the news and say, oh, I guess I was fooled. You got me. I'll be normal now.
No such luck.
Sorry, as someone who has lost family members to conservative brain rot, this legitimately pisses me off. I spoke to family members about this, and when one of them found out about the accusations and how they were related to Russia, he flipped and claimed—
no, I have a lot of family members with brain rot, dude. It's okay. It happens, bro. We all have brain rot in our family somewhere.
that it was fake news perpetuated by Democrats to attack free speech. So no, I don't think this is all one big joke, though there are a bunch of funny subplots. There's a lot of funny stuff in
Certainly.
this. Like how much Tim Pool seems to be freaking out because he's quite literally posting through.
Tim, this is your lawyer. I'm asking you to keep on posting that shit.
Keep posting.
So yeah, in response to the indictment, most of the content creators claimed that actually they're the victims, despite getting
We're
paid
the
millions of
victims.
dollars in the process. Tim Pool had a unique response because his was clearly not run past any kind of legal counsel and was therefore deleted and edited to not further incriminate himself. The first statement he made claimed that the DOJ indictment was leaked when it was actually made public and released alongside a press release. He also added a part to clarify that he didn't produce content explicitly for Tenet and that they were licensing his podcast. He claims that never at any point did anyone other than I have full editorial control of the show, and the contents of the show are often apolitical. When examples include discussing spirituality, dating, and video games.
He forgot to add dating or the lack thereof.
Yeah. This man notoriously, it's not me. It's the women's fault.
There's a famous clip out there.
Yeah. So yeah, this is funny because sure, I mean, I guess they talk about a bunch of stuff, but claiming that it's apolitical is insane. Although I still to this day see people being like, why are you calling Tim Pool a conservative?
He's a centrist.
He's a centrist liberal. Like,
no, he's not.
What the fuck are you talking about? It's been so long. Like, you could maybe make that claim like 8 years ago.
Not even, like, it was longer than that because he originally got to start filming Occupy Wall Street.
Filming Occupy Wall Street and getting like kicked out of Zuccotti Park because people were like, why are you filming me? I don't want my face on the internet.
Yeah.
Anyway, also it is cool to admit that they didn't have to trick you into spreading Russian talking points. You did it. You would have done it anyway. You claim in the statement that you have full editorial control. You were already taking the side that the Russians wanted you to take to sow division here. That's why they picked you.
That's the whole reason.
Yeah.
So after the statement was released, he started up with a lot of random bullshit and contradictory statements that many took at face value. Upon reflection, I now understand that Ukraine is our greatest ally.
Oh, shut up.
As the breadbasket of Europe and a peace-loving people, we cannot allow the fascist Russians to continue their crimes against humanity. We must redouble our efforts and provide an additional $200 billion at once. Oh, wow. Oh, has Tim Pool finally changed? No, he's being an asshole on purpose.
He's trolling.
Here's more of his posts in just the past 24 hours. I am now pro-war. We must fund Israel and Ukraine. I remember back when they said I was funded by the CIA. Then it was right-wingers. Now it's the Russians. Tomorrow it will be, I don't know, like Poland or something. Slava Ukraini. I have been contacted by the FBI as a potential victim of a crime. The FBI believes I have information relevant to an ongoing criminal investigation and have requested a voluntary interview. I will be offering my assistance in this matter. All right, that last one I do believe. I do believe that the FBI has contacted Tim Pool and that he definitely is cooperating with them.
I would hope so for his sake.
But I'm still finding it a little hard for him to play the victim card after allegedly receiving hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for no extra work and just simply not questioning where that obscene amount of money was coming from after getting some BS story about a fake investor.
Also, what happens to that money?
You would assume that they, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. He definitely already spent it.
Yeah, I mean, but like, if you unknowingly receive money
from a foreign
indirectly
government
through a bunch of fucking channels from a government that we are currently like sanctioning, you know, obviously, even if you knew, even if you didn't know anything about all that, like that money is dirty. So where does it fall legally? What happens to it?
They're going to have to repossess that Cybertruck.
Yeah. They're going to have to put up tape around that skate park.
Sad. Hey, hopefully it goes back to the locals.
Yeah. Also, this might just be the tip of the iceberg. It's certainly suspicious that many members of Congress seem to regurgitate a lot of these same talking points.
Yeah.
And as for how the larger right-wing media sphere reacted to this news, well, I'm sure it's exactly what you already assumed. Here's some clips from Fox News and Newsmax. Please enjoy.
And they're saying they're not going to put up with foreign interference. Your thoughts?
All of it is striking, and all of it is disconcerting that foreign governments would try to meddle in our U.S. elections. What's particularly problematic, though, is our Department of Justice and FBI are the least credible people to talk about this, given the information operations they ran against the American people with their Russia collusion hoax, with their cover-up of the Hunter Biden laptop in which they lied about the situation.
That DOJ seems to be back to Russia.
Bro, on the Hunter Biden laptop, there was just porn of Hunter Biden. There wasn't anything on there. There was just like naked photos of him. How is that important?
Russia, because they announced indictments against Russians for alleged election interference. What's going on here? Are they laying the groundwork for more censorship?
Well, the reality is they already did this in 2016. So they have a historical practice when they're afraid of Donald Trump coming back to office. They invent every figment of imagination of Russia or somebody else putting him there without actually paying attention to the threats coming from our own administrative state to free and fair elections in the United States.
This show tonight has all the earmarks of Russian propaganda.
You know, this is just mindless, a mindless attempt to create a Russian boogeyman where there really isn't one.
Tim Pool and Benny Johnson, $400,000 a month.
That's a lot of money, man. Give me some of that money.
Millions of followers.
$400,000 a month?
Yes, more than Hunter Biden was making.
Where's my leftist, communist, socialist funding? Where's my billionaire, massive funder, huh? Yeah, there are none on the left.
Oh, I'm available too if you want to pay me for that money.
So the news regarding the actual real-life influencers unwittingly creating content backed by Russia also coincides with a greater investigation into massive disinformation efforts from the Kremlin. Included in their investigation was a man named Ilya Gambashidze, who runs a Russian IT company and has already been sanctioned by the EU. This guy was named by the DOJ for orchestrating yet another disinformation campaign, which was literally called the Good Old USA Project.
Okay.
Here's Wired with more on that. On Wednesday, Gambashidze and his company were named by the U.S. Department of Justice among the architects of a disinformation campaign known as Doppelganger that has for the past 2 years been targeting Ukraine and more recently U.S. elections. The Doppelganger campaign uses AI-generated content on dozens of fake websites designed to impersonate mainstream media outlets such as The Washington Post and Fox Business, using a network of fake social media accounts to disseminate pro-Russian narratives targeting audiences across the globe.
On Wednesday, the Justice Department announced the seizure of 32 internet domains that it says are linked to the Doppelganger campaign, which violate U.S. money laundering and criminal trademark laws. Today's announcement exposes the scope of the Russian government's influence operations and their reliance on cutting-edge AI to sow disinformation, FBI Director Christopher Wray said in a statement. Companies operating at the direction of the Russian government created websites to trick Americans into unwittingly consuming Russian propaganda. And the goal of the campaign from the beginning was crystal clear. To secure victory for Donald Trump, Gamba Shidze wrote on the Good Old USA Project planning document. As well as getting Trump elected, the campaign's secondary goals included increasing the percentage of Americans who believe the U.S. is doing too much to aid Ukraine to 51%, and reducing the percentage of Americans who have confidence in President Joe Biden down to 20%.
Of course, Russia and every other authoritarian dictator, weirdo president would want Trump in power because he's so unstable. He's good for those bad guys, you know. They want an unstable America. That makes them stronger.
9%. The plan lists a variety of audiences the campaign specifically wants to target, including residents of swing states, American Jews, U.S. citizens of Hispanic descent, and the community of American gamers.
Uh-oh, they targeted gamers.
Users of Reddit and image boards such as 4chan. The document describes this category of gamers and chat room users as the backbone of the right-wing trends in the U.S. segment of the internet. I mean, they ain't wrong about that.
No. And Ryan Riley of NBC News and author of the book Sedition Hunters, which I read a few months ago, very good book, he posted the documents from the DOJ's case regarding these Russian propaganda efforts. And let's just take a propaganda at the topics Russians want people to focus on. There is a feeling among Republicans that the president's policies, censorship on social media, and the policies of the Democrats' government are encroaching on their rights. They are dissatisfied of dramatic decline in the standard of living and large expenditures on offensive policy of the United States in Europe and Ukraine. They are afraid of losing the American way of life and the American dream. It is these sentiments that should be exploited in the course of an information campaign in/for the United States.
Okay. And here are those topics, which literally read as if they could be coming straight from the mouths of members of the GOP, including the Trump campaign. Topics include encroaching universal poverty, record inflation, halting of economic growth, unaffordable prices for food and essential goods.
Sounds just like the Republican Party.
Americans, privileges for people of color, perverts, and disabled, constant lies of the Democrats' administration about the real situation in the country. Threat of crime coming from people of color and immigrants, including new immigrants from Ukraine. Overspending on foreign policy and at the expense of interests of white U.S. citizens. Constant lies to the voters by Democrats in power. And last but not least, America is suffering a defeat despite Biden/Harris efforts. We are being...
This is literally just a fucking Republican Party, like, policy board. That's crazy they're funding this shit. Wow, that makes total sense, though. And billionaires. I'm sure they want this.
Our guys will die in Ukraine.
And yeah, a lot of that stuff, specifically the stealing of jobs, it sounds like something you would hear at a Trump rally.
No, Trump only talked about black jobs.
Ah, yes, that's the confusion. You can't get me on that.
These Ukrainian immigrants, they're bringing crime. They're stealing black jobs.
So they then list the target audience of such a campaign. And you're already going to know what it is. But
Who's the most gullible group of people in this country who will just eat up whatever slop we pour down their gullet?
Conservatives.
The list of the target audience is Republican voters, Trump supporters, supporters of traditional family values, and white Americans representing the lower middle and middle class.
Oh, I thought they were going to say Democrats.
Well, there's so much more to this one, including using what they call perishable accounts on social media that can spread whatever message they want and then be deleted. This, as well as the actual indictment relating to tenant media, are, of course, linked down in the description below. And hell, that was a lot. But it's all important stuff to be aware of as we inch closer and closer to Election Day, because even though these specific efforts are now exposed, there's no doubt that these exact
There's 100 million more efforts.
Yeah.
Yep.
This can't just be isolated.
So please do yourself a favor and read all those articles that are attached
Keep
below,
an eye
including the
out.
indictments themselves, and just be wary when you're out there surfing the internet. But, I mean, it took the whole episode, but I did kind of want to talk about that gigantic flop of a game.
Check this channel out, guys.
Took offline after, what, a week or two?
Can you imagine working on a video game for 8 years?
Internet Today. Great channel, guys. Check it out. I'm about to go to bed. Let me see. Yeah, conservatives think conservatives think that Kamala Harris is wearing fucking headphones, earbuds.
So we already covered some of the conservative cope over the loss of the debate by Donald Trump. And we take a look at them saying, oh, the moderators were unfair to him. The moderators weren't fair. But now let's get to like the conspiracy theory level stuff right here. And a perfect way to start with conspiracy theories about the debate and how it was unfair is to start with a tweet by Alex Jones. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at this. Look at these earpieces that look like earrings. Looks a lot like what cackling Kamala was wearing. What do you think? So this is the latest theory of how she cheated on the debate. They're claiming that she was wearing earrings that double as like earpieces, pretty much, Chad. They're taking a look at her earrings and saying, hey, these earrings, they look a hell of a lot like these things. These Nova H1 audio earrings that I guess there was like a Kickstarter for or whatever. And they're supposed to be like, they're like headphones, kind of like, think of them like ear pods, but they are disguised as earrings. So you can kind of like have these nice looking earrings in your ear and you can listen to music while you're at it or whatever. Yeah, they're
That's so stupid.
During the debate, which is funny because even if you like look at the picture,
They don't look alike. They look nothing alike.
okay, and you look at the one they don't even look the same. These don't even like, if you look at them, they don't even look the same. So it's just really weird. But that's their latest cope. What else do we have here? We have this Tara Bull person saying rumors are circulating that Kamala Harris was wearing audio earrings and being fed lines. Isn't this against
Oh
the
my
debate
God, they're
rules?
coping,
I
bro.
imagine
They're
that would be against
coping.
the debate rules if she was actually doing that. But she wasn't. This is just your typical conservative conspiracy theory garbage. But yeah, this is what they were claiming that she was wearing. Let me actually zoom into this a little bit so we can get a better look at it. Nova H1 audio earrings, earphones embedded in earrings. Nova H1 audio earrings, the first and only wireless headphones embedded in a pair of pearl earrings on a gold or silver plated clip. So yeah, these are a thing. These do exist, but it doesn't look like she was wearing those. Like they don't even look the same as the earrings that she was wearing. This blew up so much that we have our favorite person, Jeremy from the Quartering, doing a video on it. Oh shit! Oh shit! So let's see what Jeremy had to say about this. I'm genuinely curious. Also, that's a great freeze frame. He looks absolutely unhinged right here.
Well. Lots of people on the internet.
Yeah, this Jeremy guy, the Quartering, the quarter pounder. He literally pisses in his basement. Yeah, he pisses in his basement, and his wife went out to get pizza without him.
Talking about the debate last night and whether or not the Kamala nomenon, the cacklementum, was receiving any extra help in the earpiece or in some potential earpiece. It seems like every debate that goes on out there, this is a point of conversation, a topic of conversation. I would not be surprised if basically everybody in debates is wearing some sort of earpiece at some point or another, and particularly the Democrats who are totally fine having debates in places like ABC where they're openly antagonistic against one particular candidate. And one of the most...
It's literally pure cope. Your guy did poorly. Like, that's
For
just
real.
it. You know, what's funny is like when, Biden did poorly in his debate, were there any, left-leaning commentators who were coping about it or whatever, making excuses of like, Trump must have cheated or it was unfair
Nope.
or, any of that kind of like coping? No. In fact, we all agreed that like, yeah.
We just said
did
Biden
really
sucked.
fucking bad in that
Biden
debate.
did
That's
bad.
not a good look. He did so bad that we all agreed that maybe it's time for you to exit stage left and let somebody else take over this campaign.
for
Like,
real.
that's how much we agreed with the analysis that yes, Biden did really bad. Okay, so they were willing to like cheer on Trump on that one. No claims that Trump cheated or whatever, or Trump had an unfair advantage or anything, which I wouldn't even make that argument. But like now that their guy he's the one that performed poorly.
Conservatives can't be wrong at all. They can never be wrong, even though they always say pull yourself up by your bootstraps, brother. But they can never be wrong, even though when they're wrong. It's like always gotta be right when they're wrong.
Oh, the moderators were unfair, and the platform they were on was unfair, and they're cheating by using like an earpiece, even though we don't have proof that they actually used an earpiece. Like it's insane.
Biased, unreasonable debates I've ever seen. they gave Kamala Harris a shorter podium so she would seem as tall. They made sure to have unlimited split screen of her making wild, cackling faces every time Trump in an attempt to make TikTok type of interactions or things like that. Well,
that was another thing I saw. They're like really upset about the facial expressions that she makes. I don't know. I thought they were comedy gold, honestly, because like it would just show you how, because obviously they were muting the mics, right? So she couldn't verbally express how she was feeling about the comments that he was making. So she would, express them through her facial expressions, and it would just go to show how bizarre things were that he was saying. But not only that, but like Trump had some facial expressions of his own. Usually in regards to her saying something that very clearly hurt his feelings, he'd have some drastic reaction to or whatever. So it's not like she was the only one making faces in that regard. But yeah.
Night and this morning, people were wondering, was she wearing a device? Now, there's one particular device that people are pointing to. Apparently, it's called the Nova H1 audio earring. What are they? Well, they are at the center of a various series. Let's go to Kickstarter. Here's where the actual product is. It looks very similar to the earrings that Kamala Harris...
I'm pretty sure the Kickstarter failed, didn't it? Maybe not.
Was wearing during the debate last night.
Except they don't look similar to the earrings that she was wearing. In fact, somebody found out what the earrings were that she was wearing. This tweet says, Kamala Harris was not wearing earphone earrings during the debate. She was wearing $800 Tiffany & Co. pearls. Instead of pushing conspiracies about how we point out that most Americans would kill for $800 earrings in their savings, not on their ears, $800 in their savings, not on their ears, and she's out of touch that way. So this is obviously somebody who's not fond of Kamala Harris, but even them, they were able to admit hey, look, these are the earrings that she's wearing. Okay, this isn't like some audio, bullshit that she's using to cheat or whatever. These are the earrings. In fact, I was able to find them on the actual Tiffany & Co. website.
Look at
Double
that.
pearl hinge earrings in sterling silver. And yes, they are $800 earrings. These are what she was wearing. Okay, and they wanted to try and say look at this, look nothing like these earrings, these audio earrings that they're trying to say that she was wearing. Nothing like them at all.
Yeah, these conservative people are so dumb. They just make any random shit up.
Okay, whatever you say, Jeremy.
Of course, Kamala Harris has said that they are Tiffany's earrings, so they're probably $100,000 or more, but she's middle class, everybody.
Who the fuck is spending $100,000 on earrings? I feel like do earrings that exist that even cost $100,000? If they are, I don't care how rich you are, you're a fucking idiot for spending that much on earrings. But
yeah,
okay.
That's insane.
So here are the H1 Nova earrings getting lots of free press as a Kickstarter that raised $100,000, and it is, let's take a look. The Nova H1, okay. Is there any audio? Oh, there it is. So the world's first audio earrings, I don't know if the music they use. So it looks like a earring, basically like you're wearing an earring instead of an earbud. You can stream from anywhere. So it says Bluetooth earrings. It's the first clip-on earphones in the planet. These earrings are fully packed with the latest technology, embedded in real pearls to provide you with music, phone calls, and digital assistance all day long. Like conventional earrings, the Nova H1 are placed on...
This is literally I don't even have to watch this whole video.
Yeah, that ain't...
How he turned
they're not using fucking...
into an almost 12-minute long video. It's insane. I can't even watch this crap anymore.
Yeah, Kamala Harris is not using earphone, Bluetooth, fucking... pearl necklaces, you dumb fucking stupid Republican brain rock conservative incel weirdos. Jesus Christ.
Bizarre. How hard do you have to cope?
Coping.
To come to the conclusion that she must have cheated by wearing these
for real
that don't even look the same
as
the ones that she was actually wearing.
And these people are coping just as hard as the blue MAGA people that supported Biden all the way to the end were coping when Biden lost to Trump in the debate. They were like, oh, the moderators are not holding Trump to account, the moderator. And now it's flipped. Kamala did good, and Trump people are saying the moderators. It's so funny. We live in a fucking insane reality.
Just accept it, okay? Your guy lost, okay? Fair and square. Okay, your guy made himself look like a fucking fool on that stage, and no, she wasn't wearing some hidden earpiece to try and cheat or whatever.
For real.
This is just utter insanity. Go hang out with Alex Jones and wear your tinfoil hats and make yourself look like fools even more, because that's what's happening.
For real, y'all.
This is ridiculous.
All right, guys. I love you all. Have a good one. I'm really tired. Have a good stream. I had fun. I mean, not have a good night. I can't even talk. That's how tired I am. But yeah, guys. Have a good one.